Hey, animal lover, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll give folks 5 minutes to get in. So we'll start around 7:05. All right, we will go ahead and get started, folks. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So we will start off the Kahoots. hopefully you guys can see. The pin is 4500488. See, RB, or I'm sorry, Rama. You guys want to join?
I'm joining now.
Okay. All what about you? Okay, cool. All right, we got everybody we're going to get, so I will go ahead and get started. All right, if you leave your hard drive with essential tools at home, which security principle are you violating? Availability. You don't have it available for you. So this is not that it's not available in the network. It's that you don't have it to use. So it's unavailable. Let's see where we're at. KRRB in Kenya. Number 2, true or false? Intrusion detection systems take action on suspected threats. Yep, this is false. Intrusion detection systems only alert. They do not actually take any action. Good job. All right, next we have KRRB and Ed. Which of the following is one factor of a defense in-depth approach to network design? Yep, I control on the routers. All right, number 4. How would you ensure that confidentiality is implemented in an organization? Yep, encryption. Good job. KR is on fire. RB and Ed. Logs should be restored remotely so hackers cannot delete them. Sound legit? Yes, they should be. As you know, part of our ethical hacking process is removing, part of the hacking process is removing logs at the end. So if they're not stored locally, they can't be deleted. RB is on top, followed by KR and then Ed. A member of your team enters the following command: nmap sv-sc-o traceroute IP. Which one of these performs the same? Okay, we actually did this in the lab last week. Nmap-A gives you all of those things: operating, versions, traceroute, does everything. I think B and C are actually made up. Actually, D is made up as well. All right, let's see where we're at. Same, RB, KR, and Ed. Number 7, you've decided to begin scanning, but you want to keep your efforts quiet. Which IDS evasion technique splits the header? Yep, fragmenting. RB, then KR, and Ed still on top. Number 8, an ethical hacker is sending TCP packets to a machine with a SYN flag set. What type of port scan is this? Yep, this is a stealth scan. You only send a send because you don't want it to do this complete three-way handshake. Let's see, who got that? Ed and Kenya. Next up, number 9. T5 is the slowest speed that you can send packets with Nmap. Good job. It is from 1 to 5, and 5 is the fastest. So 5 is actually the fastest that you can send. It's also the loudest. RB, KR, and Ed. Last question. I attempted the lab from last week. Turkey got the best of you. All right, let's see where we're at. The winner, make sure that you drop me a DM so I can make sure you're on the list if you should be. The suspense, RB. Runners up, Kenya and Cream, okay. All right. All right, so let's get into the material for this week. All right, so this week we're talking about the analysis section. So we're starting analysis. We are finished with the background. So the analysis section includes data analysis, system analysis, risk assessments, vulnerability assessments, and pen testing. We talked a little bit about this in the background. Technical assessment, network sniffing, and malware. All right, so just to recap our background domain 1, we talked about network and communication technologies, the CEH test composition, how there's 125 questions and what you need to pass it. We talked about the network technologies, difference between red team and blue team, system technologies and communication protocols, and cloud computing and cloud security. That was week 1. And week 2, we talked about the information security threats and attack vectors, the different types of malware, how they get on your machine, how you can prevent them, So I think that you guys need to take a look at, how they affect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and what we do to protect those things, because those are both aspects of your test. We talked about the different types of attacks. We talked about the Clown Alliance, the 30 dozen the top security threats. And we talked about the different types of wireless encryption and wireless attacks. And we also talked about information security technology, the ethical hacking process, the CIA triad, the different layers, the security, defense in depth and defense in breadth. We looked at it from the blue team perspective, which is protecting the network, and also, how from an attacker's perspective and the red team perspective, what we need to do in order to get around those. We talked about incident management and how to identify, prioritize, resolve the incidents, create a report, and the process that you have to go through in order for that process. And we talked about the different types of hacks and the different types of attackers, and the motives that they have for doing what they do. And then we talked about the different processes as far as recon, scanning, enumeration, gaining access in the ethical hacking cycle. So now we are currently on the domain 2, which is the analysis. So we'll be talking about the information security assessment analysis this week, and next week will be information security assessment process. So this is chapters 2 and 11 in Messier, and I think it's, let me see. I think this is some different chapters for chapter 1. I'm sorry, for in the Walker text. So analysis domain. So analysis represents 13% of the exam. So this is not as much as the 22% from the first domain. This is about 8 questions for assessment and analysis, and then 8 questions for the assessment process itself. So these are the sections that we talked about that are going to be included in the assessment and analysis section. And then week 5, we'll talk about the assessment process. All right, so data analysis. So analysis domain is about the necessary methodologies and steps to perform an assessment as an ethical hacker. The domain is basically broken down into assessments and analysis. You're either doing an assessment, which is checking to see what the status of the network and the machine is, or you're doing an analysis to determine, what approach you can take to that. So this looks at specifically analyzing data to determine if it's been modified, analyzing the system, and reconning data. We did a little bit of this last week in our lab in the OSENT. So if you are doing a black box test and you don't have any information about the organization that you're looking at, then you're going to have to do the OSENT in order to determine, some additional information, like what tools they're using, what services, what technologies they're using. So you want to gather information, both technical and non-technical, about your targets. You'll see that in the lab you saw in the last week that we looked at, finding out information about people who work there, as well as finding out about the organization itself. So that's all part of the open source intelligent, and there's a lot of tools out there for you to use, both within Cali and on the internet, for you to gather information about people using like their email addresses or their usernames or whatever information that you have about them. So also we scan networks and interpret the results and use the data you've collected in order to build a plan for your assessment. So you have to know, how you're going to attack the box once you get the information that you've been gathering. So system analysis. So for this, you need to know the difference between active and passive activities. Active is anything that you can do to put packets on the network. So port scanning, we're going to talk in this week's lab about some packet crafting, and then sniffing traffic is considered passive. So if you're listening to traffic, but you're not interacting, like for example, if you're just listening to on Wireshark, or if you're doing it over like a wireless network, maybe with Kismet or something, that is considered passive. So you need to be able to take the open ports on the system and determine what services are on them. So we actually used a couple of ways. We used InMap, and which I'll show you actually another way today, to find out, what services are on the machine, and then we're going to use MITRE and the CVEs to determine if those services are vulnerable. So once you identify what vulnerabilities or services are on the system, that'll help you to determine how you should form your plan of attack. So for example, if you see that there's a web server on the machine, okay, you might try to use web attacks to try to exploit the system in hopes that they are using, for example, the same web admin password as they do on the machine itself. So that's the kind of thing. If there's no web server, then your plan of attack probably won't include web server attacks. So risk assessments. Risk assessments are designed to look at potential vulnerabilities on your system versus the likelihood of exploitation. It's quite possible that there could be a bear that breaks into your organization and wreaks havoc in your server room. But is it likely? Probably not. So when you're looking at the risk assessments, you want to consider everything that could happen, but you also want to look at the likelihood of it happening and the impact that it has on whatever your organizational assets are. So like if you are a healthcare organization, you want to protect your healthcare information. You want to protect credit card information. If you are a search organization, maybe you want to protect your web servers and make sure that your availability is up. So depending on what type of organization you are, determines what level of risk a particular threat and vulnerability is going to impact your organization. So risk is at the intersection of loss and probability. There's actually an equation in your text for how do you calculate it, where probability is a number and then loss is in terms of a value amount for the impact on your organization. And loss could include things such as the cost of cleaning it up, or the cost of the intellectual property loss, or the cost of what it takes to fix your reputation. Any of those could be considered loss when you're looking at the monetary value. So they're both measurable values, and they're both based on what's specific to your organization. So this last comment is just making sure that you include the cost of cleanup. So if your inside organization, like people inside your organization are actually doing the cleanup, maybe there's no external invoice that you're going to get, but that's a cost that those folks could be doing other work. So it's a loss of whatever it was that they would be doing if they weren't cleaning it up. So risk assessments were talked about on page 13 in Walker, page 56 to 58 in Messier. It's about reviewing and assigning organizational risks for your organization. And different organizations may have different viewing of whether the risk is high, medium, or low. So you frequently see this in like a chart where it'll be color coded, whereas risks that are in like the red section, normally at the top, those are the ones that you want to try to mitigate because they're going to have a very high impact on your organization. Whereas green risks, you might not spend as much money on those because they're not as important to your organization. So, it's important that as security professionals, that you cannot eliminate risk. You have to assume that, something is going to happen, and you just have to take mitigations and precautions so that the end result is not as bad as if you had just done nothing. So, vulnerability assessment and pen testing. So vulnerability assessments are a fundamental part of what it is that we're trying to do. So they include weaknesses in the environment, design flaws. They could be misconfigurations, default configurations. You install the web server and you didn't change the default password. I think in lab 1 we did lab 1 or lab 2, we did some scans and we found out that our broken web app didn't have a password change, so we were able to get root on that machine based on default configurations. More advanced attacks such as buffer overflows and operating system flaws. So the types of vulnerability assessments, you have active ones, passive, host-based, internal, external, application, network, and application is on there twice. But those are the different types of vulnerability assessments that you can do. So we have a methodology for assessment. So there are three parts to this methodology. It includes pre-engagement, engagement, and post-engagement. So in the pre-engagement, that's when you're trying to find out information. So depending on whether or not you're doing a black box, a white, or a gray box test will determine how much information that you're going to need in addition to whatever you're given. So, the first thing is that you're going to make sure that you have written permission, of course, and then that your scope is defined. So if you're only doing your test in a specific area, like maybe only the HR area and not the accounting area, or not the, some other section, then you want to make sure that you're only doing your scanning, only doing your investigation on the areas that are within scope for your engagement. You also want to make sure that you have documentation and the rules of engagement. So, they may say, hey, anything is anything goes as far as your assessment, but they may say, hey, we don't want any DDoS done, or we don't want anything that's going to take down, our web server, or we don't want anything that is going to impact XYZ. So you have to know what the rules of engagement are and what's okay. Okay, they may not want you to talk to certain people. There's different. This is all when we're discussing the scope. There's different things and rules that are fair game. So you want to make sure that you're staying within the confines of your scope and your rules of engagement are, because if you go outside that, that's how you start getting into the gray hat area where you have permission to do something, but maybe not exactly what it is that you're doing. So, and then a review of past threats and vulnerabilities. So if a vulnerability assessment has been done before, have those results been mitigated? Have they been updated? A good starting point for you could be like, hey, let me just check and see if the things that were identified in the last vulnerability assessment are still a problem. Because if they are, or if they, maybe they were patched and then became a problem again, those are a good starting point for what you're doing. Then you have the engagement. So the engagement looks at the application layer, network layer, segmentation, and then the post-exploitation steps. So these are actually doing the scan, actually doing the enumeration, the actual steps of the vulnerability assessment and the pen test. Okay, and then you have the post engagement, which is the remediation, like fixing it, retesting to make sure that your vulnerabilities have been resolved, cleaning up the environment, removing any traces that you were there, and then providing a report. And then that report is again used the next time that they have to do a pen testing engagement. All right, so next is the penetration test involves the process of evaluating the security of a system or a network by simulating attacks. As we've said, the process that you use as an ethical hacker is almost the same as the process that you use as a hacker, except you have permission and then you do the reporting at the end. But a lot of the steps are the same. So the process requires active analysis of the system, the network, the port services and vulnerabilities, as we've discussed several times. And to find the vulnerabilities. And it could be, known and unknown software, hardware flaws, or deficiencies in technical countermeasures. So, most companies put in controls, but if the controls are not put in appropriately, then, you could find issues with that. So again, we're scanning, enumerating, identifying vulnerabilities, attempting to exploit the vulnerabilities, and then writing the report. Any questions so far? All right, so next we have the technical assessment methods. So this is looking at the patching processes, procedures, categorization, system risk, policies, and access controls, okay? So these are all things that you want to do during your assessment to make sure that, there are no holes in whatever the security environment. So assessments should be scheduled at a predetermined interval. You should know that, you do an assessment, let's say once a month or, twice a year or whatever it is. Assessments should be documented and they should be learned from. Someone should be writing a report, there should be a lessons learned, and you should be improving, from one assessment to another. Those improvements should be incorporated into your policies and procedures, which are the rule sets that your employees are actually using. and they should be prioritized. Some things are more important than other things. So like if your assessment identifies, for example, that you're not patching a specific server, then that makes that server more vulnerable. You want to make sure that that's prioritized, especially if that server holds important information to your organization. All right, next is network sniffing. So this is actually chapter 9 in Messer and chapter 7 in Walker. So we did a little bit of this in, I think, the week 1 lab. So sniffing is the process of scanning and monitoring captured data packets passing through the network. So there's 2 types of sniffing. There's active, where you're actually sending a packet and you're starting a communication and expecting a response. And there's passing, and that's like if you're monitoring a hub and the hub is passing all the packets and you're monitoring that, then there's no need for you to see anything because send anything, because you're actually seeing the traffic, so you don't have to initiate the conversation. Excuse me. So sniffing allows you to monitor both protected and unprotected traffic. And sniffing tools are not hacking. They're actually used in a lot of blue team as a diagnostic tool. And they can be used to identify a number of attacks, but they can also be used from the red team side to be able to, see anything that's sent in the clear, such as like maybe TCP, like telnet traffic, or to identify, what flags are sent or time to live. There's a lot of things from a red team side that you can use Wireshark for or sniffing for in order for you to, use it both in a red team or blue team perspective. So it's not just a red team thing, but from a blue team perspective, you can use it to identify media access control attacks, DHCP, ARP poisoning, and things of that nature. So network sniffing can also be used to identify MAC attacks, flooding, switch port stealing, DHCP attacks, and ARP attacks, such as ARP poisoning and ARP spoofing. So you should know, why we're doing what we're doing when we're capturing these packets and using them to identify information. So malware analysis. Malware is specifically designed for gaining access to target machines, stealing information, and harming the target system. Malware can be defined depending on the payload to do any number of things. So it's not like it's limited to a specific subset. So they attempt to affect the system confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And we've seen last week when we're looking at malware that it includes viruses, worms, keylogger, spyware, Trojans, and ransomware. So there's different ways that malware can get on a system. This is just a small list, including free software. If you tried to get the Tyson Jones fight for free, that could have made you susceptible to malware. File sharing services, anything like where you're doing, like LimeWire or anything where your files, removable media, USBs, email communications, and not using a firewall or antivirus. So malware analysis. So Trojan horses are malicious programs which mislead its actual intentions. So Trojans can lead to infection of other network devices, and they can complete the following tasks. Like I said, there's no limit to what it is that malware can do. So Trojans specifically can create a backdoor, steal information, get elevated privileges, infect connected devices, ransomware attacks, using victim computer as a bot or for spanning, or disabling resources such as firewall or logging. So Trojans can affect any number of ports. So some of the famous ports and Trojans that have affected them include port 2, which was the death Trojan, or port 21, Blade Runner, Visible FTP, and port 10,000, which was the Damaru. So the types of Trojans include defacement, which is changing what it is that your website should say, HTTP or S, botnets, proxy server, or remote access Trojans. Those are all different types of Trojans that you might see on your exam. So what can you, please?
When you talk about malware and worms, would you include televisions or just computers?
So it depends. And the reason why I say it depends because like if your television has, like if it's a smart TV and you can access the internet on there, you'd have to look at how the security on the TV is done, okay? Because like if you can download things, like so I know like on for example on Netflix or like your Fire Stick, you can unlock it and then you can go and get applications that are not available in like their app store or whatever, and there may be something on that software, okay? So like in that case, that might download it to your computer, which and your computer is a connected device. Okay, so anytime you have a connected device which has, you know, open, you know, ports and services and connects to the internet, there's a risk that can get something from downloading. Okay, so like, you know, a lot of people will what's it called, root their Fire Sticks so they can get like, you know, maybe some free channels or free movies, but that could, you know, lead to malware on your device.
Okay.
So just watching TV, you should be fine.
Yeah.
But if you're downloading stuff or you're doing things on your smart TV, then that's a different story.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No problem. All right. So malware analysis. So how is it that you, you know, determine what to do for malware? So most of the time, this is a blue team thing. They will analyze malware to figure out what it is that it does, because in order for you to be able to fix it, clean it up, you know, remove their backdoor, you have to actually know how they created the backdoor. You know, what files did it change? What impact did it have to the system? Because, you know, you can't resolve it unless you know exactly what it is that it did. You have to know what to look for. Okay, so you want to in a sandbox. So what box means is that you're doing it somewhere where it's not going to, maybe it's not connected to the outside world and it's not going to risk spreading the malware to another device. So you want to do it in like in an isolated environment. So you could do it like, for example, on a VM and then blow away the VM afterwards. Okay, so you perform a static analysis when the malware is inactive. So that's looking at it when it's actually moving. You want to connect binary info such as string values, set up network connections, and check to make sure there are no errors. So then you're going to run the virus and monitor the process and the system info, and then record the network traffic. So the purpose of this is to be able to see, you know, what actually it's doing on the network. Is it looking for specific files? Is it looking for specific destinations? What is it that the malware is actually doing on the network? So you want to determine what files have been added, what processes have been spawned, what changes to registry tools, changes to system files, et cetera. And you want to record any and all connects for incoming and outgoing connections. So I think we looked at, you know, what using, I think it was Netcat, to determine whether there were connections that were listening or connections that were waiting or already connected to our machine. And the reason why you do that is to see if your computer is being used. So you want to check and make sure if the malware is trying to reach out to another computer to maybe get it to become part of a botnet or to use it for spamming or whatever else. So that's all part of the analysis procedure that you're going to do whenever you have any malware. All right, so that's it for the materials for this week. Does anybody have any questions on this subdomain? All right, if not, then I think we will go on to the next, 1 second. All right, is the new Kahoot pen? Sorry. All right, so I think we have everyone. Let's see. Ed, Kenya, Krishna. All right, so I think we're good. All right. True or false? OSINT stands for Open Source Intelligence Non-Threat. Nope, it's open source intelligence. All right, Ed and RB are on top of it. Let's see what's next. This week, we are working on the background domain. We are working on analysis. The background was last week. All right, Ed, Enya. Number 3, which one of these is not a type of vulnerability assessment? Transitive. I made that up. Ed, and then RB, and then Kenya, and then KR. Number 4, which one of these is not part of the methodology for assessments? Good job. Ed, RB, and KR. All right, assessment should be scheduled, documented, and prioritized. Oh, wow, you guys are on it. RB is on fire. Ed is still in top. Krishna is in third. Which of these is not a way that malware can get on a system? I think only 3 of you answered.
Mine is not working.
And I know you know the
Darn.
answer. Watching TV. All right, Ed, RB, and KR. Krishna, you're on fire. Number 7, Trojan horses can disable a system's firewall. Not houses, Trojan horses. Yes, it can. RB's back on top, Ed, and then KR. Number 8, which of these was not a Trojan countermeasure that we discussed today? By we, I mean me. Good job. The point is to operate safely on the internet. KR has the highest answer streak of 6. Okay, Krishna. All right, number 9. I am coming Friday night labs. Ooh, everybody's coming, yay. So you guys all know that Friday Night Labs will be doing this week is Over the Wire. So which is the cyber word game, capture the flag type thing. So you guys come ready with your Kali machines, RB, Ed, and KR. Last question. I would prefer that we schedule class the week of Christmas. There is no wrong answer. Let's see. Yes, no, doesn't matter to me. All right. Let's see where we're at. The podium. Make sure you DM me and let me know that you should be that you were the winner. RB is number 3, Krishna is number 2, and number 1 is Ed.
How is that possible? Oh my gosh.
8 out of 10, and you were quicker than Krishna, so good job. DM me so you can get your stickers.
Was tacos did that count as points as the?
No, actually, I thought that there were no wrong answers, but tacos was in fact the wrong answer.
That's what did it. Oh my gosh. I was 1 at first. Okay.
All right. All right, so that's it. So now we're going to get into the lab. I can get my life together. All right, so for the lab, last week everyone voted. So if you were not here, your vote doesn't count. Last week everyone voted that they wanted to see the labs in real time as opposed to just seeing screenshots. So we have for you today, if my computer decides it wants to work, a live demo of the labs for this week. So what we're going to talk about first is, and the lab is actually up on the website now. I did not include it until the last minute because it had a hint on the OSINT challenge from last week, which you had the opportunity to win the Messier textbook and stickers, and Krishna actually won that. So yay, Krishna. So you will see, at least a conversation of how we go about getting those, but I'll show you the answers today. All right, so just so everyone is on the same page, this is the lab for this week. And as I said, we're going to talk about the answers for the OSINT challenge for last week. And then we will talk about actually get into the lab for this week. Okay, so did anyone see my the hint that I made my status today? It says LinkedIn tells all the business. So can you guys raise your hand whether anyone saw that? So there is in the Slack channel a status message. So I sometimes put hints to things in my status to see if anyone is watching. So far, only Blue Team Thomas has missed, but my status the other day said specifically, LinkedIn tells all the business. A lot of the answers for this lab were from out of LinkedIn. So the first one, Tanisha is a member of an honor society. Which one? So if you looked in my LinkedIn profile, the only honor society that it mentions was the Alpha Iota Mu. So that was where you got that from. So it says, what was the date of Black Girls Hack's first post on Instagram? So there's actually no way to do an advanced search on Instagram. You'll actually see in a minute that Twitter has an advanced search, which is very useful because otherwise you have to scroll through what can be, years of post, but you actually see that our first post on Instagram, if you just scroll to the bottom, was December 25th of 2019. And I think I was doing, this looks like a hack the box or try hack me thing. All right, so what was the date of Black Girls Hack's first post on Twitter? So most people don't know, unless you actually use Twitter for research and OSINT intelligence, is that you can do an advanced search on Twitter. Okay, so if you go to an advanced search, it'll actually take you here, which will allow you to search for specific words. It'll let you search for a specific phrase, any keywords, none of the words, whether there's a specific hashtag, and then if you want information from a specific account. So the best way to go about doing this is to just say, hey, Black Girls Hack, and I'm not going to log in, but I'll just show you how to do it, is you want to say it's because I told you that what was our first one, so you'll say Black Girls Hack and you do a search, and then it'll show you all of the posts from Black Girls Hack. So then you would just, scroll down and look for the other one. And you can specifically tell it to ignore like tweets and retweets, so you can try to, cut down on the amount of information that you are having to search through. So let's see. Next, Tanisha did pre-med at Historically Black University. Which one? Okay. So again, LinkedIn tells all the information, okay, all the business, right? So I actually have 4 schools on my profile in my interest, okay? You only see 3 schools in my actual like profile, but if you look at my interest, there are actually 4 schools. The 4th school is Cheney University, which is where I did pre-med. And I have a little note here saying, I normally don't tell people about this because I did pre-med for 2 years after I finished my first grad school program. And I applied to med school and I did not get in, but it was actually a blessing in disguise because I don't like blood. So I don't know how I was going to be an emergency medicine doctor when I can't stand the sight of blood.
When did you find out you couldn't stand the sight of blood?
I was actually an EMT for a couple of years, but like I never actually, you know, most of the stuff that I got involved in didn't require, you know, like a lot of craziness. You know, most of it was pretty low key. And I actually had a case where there was a little boy who had gotten bit by a dog, like right here in his face. And the dog got him pretty good. And I was like, oh, no, this is not going to work. And then after I saw a motorcycle versus a car, I was like, this is not going to work for me.
Wow.
So like my fallback plan was to get into IT. And here we are. All right, so what is the name, what name server is blackgirlshack.org using? Okay, so you may have seen this if you did the labs, but in general, whenever you want to try to find out, let's see, I'll do it over here. Whenever you want to try to find out, work for me, please. What name server someone's using, the best way to do that is to go through whois, okay? So we're gonna say whois, if my computer decides to work. All right. All right, we're just gonna do it over here. Whois org. Ah, of course. Of course.
So can you explain what just happened?
Oh, so I thought that I could just do it on my web app VM. Let's say new tab. But my broken web app does not have doesn't have whois installed on it. Okay, so when I tried to do it whois, it says, hey, I can't find that program because it's not installed in there. So see, whois is not currently installed. You can install it, but because our broken web app VMs in our labs are purposely vulnerable, you don't want to connect this to the TV. I mean, I'm sorry, to the internet. Why are you clicking everywhere but where I want you to click? Sorry, give me a second. Maybe I can trick it into working.
So I will be able to do that if I just went to CMD.
Yeah, well, okay, so time out. So if you're going to CMD, that makes me think that you're on a Windows machine. So the process you're gonna find if you go to a Windows machine and do it, it's not installed. So it's not
Okay.
a program that's native to Windows. So you want to try to do it on like your Kali machine, and hopefully your Kali machine is connected to the internet and it's cooperating, whereas mine is not currently
Okay.
cooperating. Oh, look. Let me do this before it gives up on me. All right, so when you do a whois, and you can do this for any domain as long as you're connected to the internet. So we're looking specifically at Black Girls Hack because this is part of the OSINT challenge. So it tells you, for example, who the registrar is. It tells you, that this is owned by me out of Virginia, and it tells you specifically your name server, which is ns1.5hosting.com. So what you can find out from this is that I host my machine from .5 hosting. Give me a sec. I'm trying to find a charger for my headphones that are complaining. Give me a second. I think my headphones gave up on me. All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so as you can see, like whois will give you information about the domain. And then if you actually did like someone like, let's say whois google.com, you may find more or less information. So for example, they have, multiple name servers that they use. They're obviously a much larger organization. You can see their registrar, but depending on who registered the organization, you may actually see like actual people's name, actual, phone number. So it's possible that you could find out like who the system admin is, for example, based off of information that is on whois. So that's how you find out the answer to number 4, which is what name server is Black Girls Hack using? You can also find it out online. So if you went to whois record online, you can actually find out the same type of information, but it's in a much more prettier form. All right, so who is the issuer for Google's SSL certificate? Okay, so can someone who's not Krishna, who already figured it out, tell me how you find out who an organization's SSL certificate? Krishna, you don't get the answer.
Yeah, on the browser.
Anybody else know?
If you click on the, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, from the browser, if you just go to google.com and again, if you click the log there.
Yep. And so hopefully whatever website that you're going to is in fact secure, and it has an SSL certificate. So if you click on certificate, it should be valid. If you click here, you can see here it says, DTS CA. So that's the answer that we were looking for. And you can say view certificate. So it'll tell you, for example, when the certificate is valid from, when it expires, who is issued by. So this is actually issued by GlobalSign. Okay. So that's how you find out about certificate information. So sometimes in capture the flag type events, you may see it say, hey, who is the certificate signed by, or if it's not signed, or if it's fake, that's something that you want to be on the lookout for. All right, so the next one, according to who is the registrar for Google? So I think that we looked at that before, and we see that the registrar is actually Mark Monitor. So you can find that by doing a who is search for Google. And like I said, you can also do this online. So next, download the picture from the BGH website where you got this lab. And what is the flag? Hint, I think this picture is circulating online. So the folks that attempted to do this lab had a lot of issues with this because I think Krishna can talk about like his approach, but a lot of people were searching, for example, for an information that's actually in the picture itself, but it was actually so much more simpler than that. Like if you just click on the picture, it actually opens up the flag there. So this is the correct answer for this, and it was actually just in one of the comments. So when I saw this, this is actually one of the challenges in the National Cyber League, and I want you to know I spent hours looking for, zooming in on the picture, trying to find out like if there was a street address available on this, if there was a picture, words actually encoded through stenography in the actual picture. I looked to see if there was maybe something reflected in the mirror, the window of the car here or here. I searched for hours looking at this picture, trying to find out where the flag, and they said, hey, just planting some flags today, don't mind me, right? But I didn't click on the comment to see that they had put the flag there. So like I said, sometimes the information is hiding in plain sight, and sometimes you have to actually go searching and do do a lot of looking for that. Okay, so the next question from the OSINT challenge was, has the above email address been involved in a breach? So as we saw last week when we were looking at the OSINT framework, there are a lot of different websites that you can use to determine whether or not an email has been involved in a data breach. Okay, and that can give you some valuable information if you're trying to find out, for example, if the maybe they're reusing some of the same passwords, maybe somebody has dropped a file that has all of the usernames and passwords from the breach. One of the password lists that I used was involved in like I think it was called like the RockU breach, and it's got like probably thousands of usernames and passwords from a breach. And if somebody reuses the same passwords over and over again, then you can use that information to try to log into whatever machine if you find out that they're a system admin. So the quickest way is to go to Have I Been Pwned? And then you put in the email address that you're looking for, and it'll tell you. This email address has not been involved in any data breaches thus far, because I don't even use it. So, all right. So, what is the IP version 4, not version 6 address of the OSINT framework? Okay. So this actually gave some folks a hard time as well. And the reason is that when you do, you can actually go through a lot of different ways to figure out what the IP address is. The quickest way for me, if I have a domain name and I want to figure out what the IP address is associated with them, the quickest way for me is to go and to do a ping, okay? So when you do a ping, you can say ping osintframework.com. So as you can see, it's returning no IP addresses, okay? So like, let's just do for comparison, ping. So just for comparison, you see that if you do like a ping of Black Girls Hack, it actually comes back with an IP4 IP address, okay? So that's what you see right here. It's just like in dot notation, all right? So OSINT framework is actually returning a IP version 6 IP address, okay? So what is this in IP4 was the question, okay? So in order to figure it out, the quickest way is just to say ping OSINT framework, but we're just going to say, hey, I want you to use IP version 4 and not IP version 6. So then it tells us that the equivalent of this IP in IP version 6 is, 172.65, this number right here, okay? And depending on, if you have an assignment where you're trying to find out an IP address for something, I would try from multiple machines, because when I first got like a couple of submissions for this question, I was like, why aren't they getting the same answers that I am? Okay, so there were two things going on. Number one is that some large organizations may have multiple servers that they use to respond to web traffic or to respond to traffic. So there may be multiple IP addresses that you may get. And the other thing, which was actually my issue, was that I was not connected to the outside to a NIC card. So it was actually pulling some craziness from out of cache, and it was not the correct answer. Okay. So like I said, just check when if you're doing this for the purposes of a pen testing engagement, that you check a couple of machines to see what the actual IP address is. All right, so is that the last one? Oh, no. So based on YouTube's career site, what framework experience do they expect a software engineer to have? So if you actually did a search for YouTube jobs, it says that it wants you to have Objective-C, Swift, or iOS or OS X frameworks. So that was the answer for that. All right, so now we're going to do some packet crafting. Does anybody have any questions about the OSINT challenge from?
I have two questions. So on the part about the Google and finding out who was the registrar, it may have been in some other information, but what is the registrar the person who actually registered the domain name?
So for the most part, people don't actually do the registration with the top level domains. There's usually a company that does them. So like there are different websites that own different pieces of IP, like public facing IP addresses. Okay. So depending on which one of those is used. So I usually go through .5, as you guys saw. So .5 actually will do the registration. So if we say who is google.com, in this case, Google has its own name service, which makes sense because Google is a huge company, but I actually do my domains through .5, but their registrar in this case was Mark Monitor. Okay, so this is a company that did their registration. Okay, so their IN ID is 292. This is their email for Mark Monitor, and it basically says, hey, you can't delete it, you can't transfer it, you can't update, which makes sense because somebody decided they just wanted to delete the Google domains, and a lot of people would be sad.
So they registered. It's a company that registered on behalf of Google. Correct. Okay. And then the second question. So what is the significance behind the I guess the software position for Google as far as in the description? How does that relate back in any way?
What are you talking about?
I believe that was the last one you did. The last question you did.
Okay. So as part of when we're doing OSINT challenges, that's a good question. When we're doing OSINT challenges, the whole purpose is to try to find out information based on the organization. So if we were doing an engagement with Google, like specifically YouTube, right? So if we wanted to, if for instance we got access to their network, okay, we wanted to know what type of frameworks they're using, what type of applications they're using. So if you see that Google has, their software engineers and they're using, for example, a certain programming language, that if you find files on that program, they might be written in that programming language. Or if they're database engineers, you may find that they are actually using like MySQL. So you're prepared in advance, like, hey, if we find a database, it's probably MySQL, so we can use that to try to see, what's the default password for, excuse me, for MySQL to see if they have like a misconfiguration, or if they're using default passwords or whatever. So like for a smaller company, you might have, you see that their system administrator is using certain technology. They only talk about Cisco network devices. Okay, so that'll tell you that they're using Cisco devices, and that'll help you to craft, what attacks you're going to need for your engagement. Okay. So the purpose of the types of question is that sometimes you have to do open source intelligence for people, sometimes for organizations, sometimes for jobs. But the purpose is to try to figure out as much information you can as about the network, what services they're using, what vulnerabilities may be on there, so that we can go through that ethical hacking cycle that we're always talking about, so that we can know how to approach, like when we're talking about doing the assessment, we can know how to plan how we're going to attack this network.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions? All right, so packet crafting, okay? So sometimes as a penetration tester, you may find that if you do a ping, or if you do an IMAP scan, that you may not find out any information from the thing. But depending on how you do the scan, some certain packets may allow it through, like if certain ports are open, certain traffic. A firewall is a configurable device, right? So if someone misconfigured it, or if they are allowing certain types of traffic but not other, you may have to craft your packets so that it can get through the device, so that you can find out what's going on the other side. So the purpose again is to figure out what type of vulnerabilities, was it supposed to be blocking port 80 traffic, or was it not supposed to be? Most people leave port 80 or port 443 traffic open because, if they have web servers available, then, you need to be able to access those. If you type in www.whatever, their web server is not up, then you're not going to be able to get back any information. So, they tend to allow, HTTP traffic over. So whether or not they're using port 80 for it, or they're using something else, you never know. I saw a web server the other day on a box that was using port 10,000. And that's not a typical port, right? But there I saw it, like there was a web server on there, and it, has the default configurations, which allowed me to take over the box. So the purpose of all of this is to be able to find out as much information. So if you have to craft your packets to try to figure out, what information is being returned, or what ports are open, these are some of the examples of ways that you can use HPing. And there's also an IMAP equivalent to be able to, find out information about the network that you're investigating. Okay, so again, so if you did not do lab 2 and 3, you may not have HPing in your system already, but again, if you put in the location of where HPing is, it will help you. So all you have to do is type HPing as I have it here. If you don't do this export path thing, then you're gonna have to put the full working directory for HPing in your thing every time, which is a lot more for you to type or for you to copy paste. Okay. So let us clear this, and I think my broke app was not at 11. Oh, it is at 11. Okay. All right. So you want to make sure that you have your Kali machine up and your broken web app machine up. And you need to know the IP address, because all of these packets that we're crafting are going to the broken web app machine. So mine is 10.0.2.11. And I'm about to have a bunch of issues, and it's not going to work. And that's because it is currently still pointing outward for me to do those who is. And so we're going to put it back on that network so that it's on the same network as the broken web app, and it knows who I'm talking about. Oh, All right, so it looks like my VirtualBox just gave up on me. Let me see. All right, so it looks like my VirtualBox has decided that it is no longer working. So what I will do is this lab is already on the website, so you guys can go and get it and try to do these exercises. And I will just start the beginning of next week with the execution of these. But let me just walk you through real quick what it is that we're trying to do. Okay, so we're going to start Wireshark on your machine, and we're going to be capturing the traffic. And the reason why we're capturing the track of it is that next week when we get into sniffing, we're going to do a lot more analysis on Wireshark, and we're going to try to find these different scans that we're doing. So you're doing, your HPing C3, which is sending exactly 3 packets. We're going to do a SYN scan. So this is the equivalent of the Nmap-S, little s, big S. So this is a SYN scan, which is also a stealth scan, which is sent because if you do a full 3-way packet, then it's not stealthy because then you have a connection with that computer, so they know you're there. But if it's just a SYN, then it's not doing the connection. A UDP scan, which is if you can't get over TCP. This is doing a specific port scan over port 80, or you can do this over port 22, or whatever port that you specifically think that might be available. And then a flood. So just one note about the flood is that, like when you do a ping, when you kick this off, it's going to go on forever. So like after a couple of seconds, Control C. It's not going to give you any feedback, because what's going to happen is that when you do the HPing dash flood, it's going to, and it's actually 2 dashes, it's going to send something like, when I stopped mine, I think it had sent 100,000 packets to that broken web app. Okay, so that's called a flood. Okay, so that's like, hey, I want you to try to overwhelm. So you can see that, like, maybe if you wanted to try to overwhelm a machine, you could send a flood from multiple machines, and then you might be able to overwhelm it and see if you might be able to get it to pause or take it down. So then after we do that, and like I said, only wait a couple of seconds, because after you do this flood, you're going to have, like I said, mine was, I think it was like 10,000 or 100,000 packets. After you do that, all that information is going to be in Kali. So you're going to have a lot of stuff to sift through. But like I said, the purpose of this is going to be so that we can take a look at the traffic and like see what flags are set, see what information is set. So the next thing that we were going to do is ZenMap. So ZenMap is just another way to do Nmap. You can do it from, it's mostly used in on Windows machines because it's a GUI based system, but it's also available on your Kali machine. So we're going to download ZenMap, but you want to make sure that you're connected to the internet. So you're going to take it off on that network on your Kali machine. And you're going to go to nmap.org/download, and you're going to just select the .tar.gz file. And once you download that, it'll give you, and I actually had it up on my my machine before it so rudely decided to die. And it allows you to do these same commands. So like this is the operating system scan, allows you to do like a packet trace, the same Nmap scans it allows you to do, but in a graphical format so that it's not actually in the terminal window. Okay, so also you guys had some questions about, in the questions of the day about Christmas scans and acknowledgement scans and idle scans. So this will actually allow us to be able to see what flags are actually put up for a Christmas scan, what flags are put up for an acknowledgement scan, which is like the first 2 phases of the three-way, 3-step handshake, or an idle scan. Okay, so then we're going to do some scanning to avoid detection using multiple IP addresses. So I think we actually discussed using the decoy scan in the lab last week or the week before. But then we're also going to do a maximum transmission unit, which will send like 8-bit packets over, so that byte packets over, so that you could try to avoid detection. Okay. And then the last thing we're doing, which was new for this week, and there's actually going to be some more cryptography-based stuff in some other technologies besides base64, is being able to take a decoded message. So like, we in the National Cyber League, we had a thing that said, hey, we've gotten some passwords. Could you find out what they say? Okay. So I've already told you that all of this is in base 64. So these two are in base 64, and this is just in what's it called, plain text, right? So using either this one, which is echo the text that you want to look at. So say echo this. So we would put this specifically here and say echo text, and then base 64, like pipe, which is above your shift key. And then base 64, and what that'll do is it'll tell you what this actually message is in ASCII or in plain text, okay? And then this is a different message, so it'll tell you what this is, and then you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to say echo this message, which is in English, meet me at the corner of 4th Street, which is how, somebody might use to encode information to transmit it so that, nobody else will see it. But you're going to say base 64 and then -D, which is to -E, which is to encode, okay? So that's basically how you do these three things, but we're going to do some other stuff in other encryption technologies to show you different types of messages, because I'm going to show you some passwords that are from Windows machines, and I'm going to show you some passwords are from, like using other encryptions so that you can, be able to try to eyeball it. And just, as a heads up, if you're looking at a password and they're like, hey, decrypt this, this says base 64 to me because it's a mix of uppercase, lowercase, and numbers. Sometimes you'll see an equal sign at the beginning or the end of it. So those are all things that will let me know that I need to look for base 64. But you can do these four exercises, or I'm sorry, these three exercises here. And like I said, I will take the first part of next week's lab to go over like how actually execute these for you so you can see them. And then I will update this document with the screenshots as well, so you can, if you need to get at it later because you're out next week, for whatever reason, you'll be able to see them. So any questions about any of that? I'm sorry, my computer's not cooperating, so you can actually see this.
I have a question. What is the purpose of capturing the flags? What is
like those events?
Yeah.
Okay, so capture the flag. What they do is they give you an environment and they say, hey, there's certain information that's available. So you guys will see Friday if you come to like the Friday night labs. Let's see. Oh, this is level 7. Level 7. All right. So if this is like a cyber war, like capture the flag type environment right here. Nope, you don't like that. Let's see. I think that was level 7. Okay. All right. So this is you'll see this if you come on Friday, but this is like level 7 of the Bandit series. Okay. So like they'll give you information. So they'll say, hey, there's a flag that's available in this file, right? So you'll look at the file, and then there's a whole bunch of information available in this file. Okay. So like if you were to go through this, line by line, it would take you forever, right? So they tell you specifically in like over the wire, they'll say, hey, there are multiple lines, or it starts with this, and you have to be able to use your command line skills to be able to cipher through the information. There's no way for you to go through this just looking at it and be able to tell. But you know, they might say, hey, there's a hidden file available. So if there's a hidden file, you have to look and see, you know, not just using an LS, but using like an ALT to show you, hey, who are the files, what files are in here that you may not see. So you'll remember that when we did an LS, the only file that it showed us was data.txt, right? But there's also a .profile file in here. There's a /rc file. There's a /logout file, in addition to, you know, links to other directories, okay? Or it may say to you, hey, we want a file that's owned by a certain user, okay? So it'll tell you the user and the root owner of the file. So in this case, you know, maybe this is Bandit 8 is the owner and Bandit 7 is the user, okay? So they may give you specific information and tell you, you know, what it is that you're looking for, okay? So you get the flag that's available, and then you submit the flag. So you submit the flag so that you can get points. So, you know, for the most part, they're just competitions that, you know, you're using computer skills to be able to get as many points or as possible. In some cases, like if you're doing like the Try Hack Me capture the flags, which will be going on for the next 25 days, it will, you know, your option, your, I guess, objective is then at that point to try to take over the box, okay? So that you can get root privileges. So, and you do this because like as an ethical hacker or as a, you know, a red team person, or maybe even just a regular hacker, you know, you want to try to take over as many boxes, find vulnerabilities so that you can be able to inform whoever it is that you're doing a test for, you know, what vulnerabilities they have and where they're susceptible to attack, okay? So, you know, you as an ethical hacker, you do the same type of, you know, actions that a hacker would do, but it's for the purpose of informing them how to, you know, fix it and make their system more secure. So, I mean, that's, I guess, a long-winded capture the flag explanation.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else got any questions? And just depending on if I can get my computer to get this life back together, I may have to not do the first day on Zoom or like interactively, because, you know, I kind of need to be able to share my screen in order for you guys to be able to see it. So if you see that that's canceled, it's probably because I did not get my computer together, but I'm going to try to restart it and see. But like I said, we will cover the first part of this lab next week, and then we'll go into some other encryption and cryptography challenge type things.
If we've already had our lab set up, would that be enough for the, I forget the specific name of it, but
the Friday night labs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all you need for the Friday night labs is a Kali machine. That's the best way to do it, because when we get to week 2, which is going to be Wireshark, and then week 3, we're going to jump back into the next 10 levels of Bandit. So Bandit you can do just through a PuTTY terminal. That's the quickest way to get up and running. And this is like a, you know, maybe 3-minute download. But the Wireshark, it's best to do it in your Kali machine, because we're going to download some files, and you know, just in case something goes crazy, I don't want, you know, to be the reason why you don't get your homework done or your, you know, whatever. So it's best to do it in a Kali machine. But if you wanted to, you could do it in PuTTY for what we're doing in week 1 and 3, which is just connecting to the over the wire lab.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think you already have yours set up because you've been with us. But like if anyone else is joining, because, you know, it's set up for people who are brand new, and it talks a lot about command line skills. So like being able to navigate in a Linux based environment. That's like the root of what the challenges is, more so than it is looking for the actual flag. Like they give you a hint and they tell you like, hey, this is where you're going to be looking for the flag, and then you just have to use your Linux command line skills to be able to search for it. So, and then when you get to like levels 10 through 20 or 11 through 20, you know, they actually have some that involve, you know, like this file has been hashed and then hashed again, or it's been like encrypted and then encrypted again. So you have to be able to do some of the stuff that I think we're going to be talking about next week in order to be able to complete those higher levels. So
how long has this been going on?
I'm sorry?
How long has this been going on, what you're talking about right now? I mean, if say I wanted to come in and join, like, am I way behind? Or?
No. So the Friday Night Labs doesn't start until December 4th, which is this Friday. This is the first week. So I'll be doing this for the month of December, and you know, minus the Christmas holidays, and then I'll be doing it in January as well. But there'll be different topics, and they're all basically set up as hands-on, interactive, like lab type events. So each one is standalone, except for, like, of course, the over-the-wire bandits, which assume that you've done the previous levels, because you need to know, you know, those skills in order to get to the next levels.
Right.
But we haven't started yet. It starts on Friday. I think it's at 6 p.m. You can sign up on Meetup.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, I will either see you guys later if you're doing the Try Hack Me 25 Days of Christmas, if I can get my computer together. If not, I will see you in the Slack channels.
Oh, one more question.
Sure, shoot.
Sorry. So I thought tonight, I believe you put in the Slack about is 25 Days of Christmas the what you're doing tonight, the 9:30 thing?
Yes.
And that's every Tuesday?
Oh, no. So let me show you. Okay. So Try Hack Me has a 25 days of security capture the flag. So it starts today. It's actually live. So I think if I actually you can join. So I don't know how, I guess I might as well just find out now. I don't know how the rooms are set up. So I don't know if it requires that you use your own VM in order to attack, or if they're allowing you to, let's see, or yeah, so you deploy a machine. So I don't know if you're attacking the machine from your Kali machine, or if they give you, I think that because it's a free box, you have to use your Kali machine in order to attack it. So you deploy a machine, and then they give you a bunch of challenges that you're using to find information. Okay, so they, as you can see, they walk you through a lot of the information that you need, give you background information, and then they ask you very specific questions. So what is the name of the cookie that's used for authentication? Okay, it'll be like deploy your attack box and the task machine. If you haven't already, once deployed, open Firefox on the attack box and copy paste the machine into the browser search bar. Okay, so this may just be a web-based challenge. I'm not sure. I have to actually do a look and see. But most of the Try Hack Me boxes, you have to actually attack it from either if you have a paid subscription through their VM, or if you don't, from your Kali machine using an open VPN file. So I'll take a look at this on my other computer while I'm waiting for this one to restart. But the whole it's 25 days. It starts today. There are 20. It's every day. So my plan is to every day at 9:30 to try to work my way through the box. And they give you. It's not like you're actually going to actually get something, but like you may get like a shout out, or you may get like, I don't know, like a cookie. I don't know, like I don't know what the purpose of it is, but it's a way for you to practice your skills. And like I said, they have 25 days of these. So this is the first day, and then they'll give you, and this is all web exploitation. So that makes me think that it's all browser based. So maybe we don't need the Kali machine right now, but I don't know about the other days. So There's going to be a new thing every day.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll be, as much as assuming my computer allows me to, I'll live stream my attack, my attempt at it. Like, I have not done it before, so I could talk to you about like the way that I would approach it, and you can do it at the same time, and talk about how you would approach it. Krishna actually joined me yesterday for attempt at Archetype, which was like it's a hack the box site. Because I'm trying to work towards getting my OSCP, which is it's basically you get 60 boxes, and you are supposed to get, I think it's like 100 points or pop 20 boxes in order to pass the exam. It takes 24 hours to do, and after you get the points and pop the 20 boxes, you have to write up a report showing how you did it. So like you guys may see, like, I'll have like a walkthroughs of boxes that I'm working on, like how I got to root and how I got to whatever. But because some of you folks are new, like I set up the watch me work so that when I'm working on these boxes for the OSCP, you can join in or you can just watch, and then we can talk about what the approach is, what I think when I see certain things, so that you guys can get used to how you would approach these type of things in case you want to do this professionally later on. So
what would you say, like, maybe is the skill level for this Christmas? Is it more advanced, intermediate, or beginner?
Honestly, I don't know, but like, it says beginner friendly challenge, a new beginner friendly challenge every day. So that means that they're going to give you the information that you need, and then so I guess they have a prize pool, so they're giving away some of the prizes that are up for grabs, but I'm sure that there's also a time piece to this, like, whoever can get it done quickly, whoever can, what I'm saying? So like, I don't know what it takes, what their evaluation criteria is for the daily prizes. But like I said, I'm doing it because I want to learn, and I'm live streaming it so that you guys can just see my approach to it as somebody who's like maybe like a little bit farther along in the process than you are. Okay. So like when I learn, how to do things, like I'll teach it to you, so that you can have the same information that I have, and it'll be that much less overhead for you to get to the next step of your career.
And then one last question is, for the live stream, where's the link going to be? Is it in Meetup?
No, so I didn't advertise this anywhere except for the Slack channel for people who are already as a part of the group, but it's in Capture the Flag events in the Slack channel, and in the Black Girls Hack Slack channel, and I think I put a message in there in the general channel as well. But the Zoom link is actually in the Capture the Flag events folder in that channel, so you can just join that channel and then view the Zoom link if you want to join. And watch. But like I said, that's assuming that I get my since it's web-based, I should be able to just do it without launching my Kali machine, so I should be good to go in about an hour.
Capture the Flag in which channel? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's called hashtag CTF-events.
Yeah, I don't even see that. Is it like an invite type of thing?
I don't think so. I thought it was public, but let me invite you. This is RB, right?
Yeah.
How about now?
Oh yeah, I see it.
Oh, okay. So maybe it is hidden. So does anybody else want to? You can click on the link in the general channel to get here, but otherwise I can invite you. Does anybody else want to come and see?
If I don't have to download anything, I'm able to do so.
Yeah, no, you don't. I don't think you have to download anything for this one. I think this one is a web-based, so you should just be able to do it with the internet.
Okay.
But so like I said, I'll be zooming it, and you can put it up on your machine, and you can participate as well.
Okay.
Try Hack Me. If you have to sign up, it's you don't have to buy a subscription. It's free, but I don't even think that you need to. I think you have to log in order to be able to join the room. But you don't have to pay any money or anything. So like,
okay.
I think it's all, at least today, it's all web-based. So
oh great. Yay.
You don't need to use anything else. So are you, is that Kenya speaking?
Yes.
And what's your last name? Or what's your last, or what are you in the channel as?
Kenya O.
Okay. Hi.
Hey.
Oh, I have two Kenya O's.
Onyenga.
No, I have two. Maybe you signed up twice. There's one that has a word pictures, and then there's another one that has an actual photo.
That's me.
Both of them?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so hopefully you can see.
Can you include me too, Tanisha? Krishna.
Is that Krishna?
Thank you.
Can you add me as well?
I don't know your voice. I'm going to assume that you're Ed.
That's correct.
All right. Are you in here as Ed? Edward
Yes.
Mustafa, is that you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I will see you guys at 9:30, computer willing.
All right.
All right. Cool. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.